Thank you for the introduction. And yes, so as we're welcoming back after COVID, hopefully families are able to gather safely together. We look forward to seeing everybody, but yeah, there are some challenges to that. So we just want to make sure that everybody is safe, especially since maybe you've been dealing with family members or friends in smaller numbers the past few years. And like I said, I'm Tracey Reed with Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department. We're going to talk about kitchen safety and, like we said, a little bit more Thanksgiving safety. So cooking fires is the leading cause of fires and injuries from 2015 to 2019. And that's national statistics, but that's also statistics in Fairfax County. So that applies to us also. And Thanksgiving is the peak time for home cooking fires, followed by Christmas Day and Christmas Eve. So we want to prevent those, but cooking fires is overall the number one, like I said, for property damage and for injuries. And so that's why it's an important topic. The biggest cause of cooking fires is unattended cooking. And that can happen for multiple reasons. People just unintentionally get distracted. So they put something on the stove or they put it in the oven and they walk away and they start, interacting with family or guests or watching TV or doing other tasks and then just completely forget about it. And then something happens where the cabinets light on fire or there's towels nearby the burners or something like that. Another thing we have is don't cook when you're under the influence. So we'll see a number of people who maybe go out and enjoy some beverages at home. And I don't know why, usually it's frozen pizza, but they put it in the oven and then they fall asleep. And then the next thing you know, we're going to those fires. So whether you're tired, don't cook when you're tired, don't cook when you're intoxicated. And little things, if you have to walk away, set an alarm, one of those old kitchen timers or an alarm on your phone, something to remind you that you had something in the oven. And all right, so what we talked about, be on alert. Like I said, if you're sleepy or consumed alcohol, don't use the stove or the stove top. And that also goes for the oven. Frying, grilling, boiling, broiling, stay in the kitchen. If there's another task that needs to be done, make sure you delegate that to somebody else. Simmering, baking, roasting, make sure you check it regularly. Use those timers. And then, like I said, towels, oven mitts, wooden utensils, anything like that, paper, decorations, keep it away from your stovetop. So all that stuff that looks really nice to decor for your kitchen, especially around the holiday times, just clear that stuff away once you start cooking. And another big thing is make sure your smoke alarms are working. So make sure you test them and so that they're working in case there is a problem that they can notify you quickly. And if they do, make sure you have an exit plan and you get out. So when you cook with children, try to keep hot things and kids 3 feet away from the stove. Little hands like to help. I have kids myself, so they very much like to try to help. There are appropriate tasks to let kids help with, and then there's things that kids shouldn't be involved. So keep kids 3 feet away. It can happen so fast that a child grabs a pot or runs by and knocks a handle and ends up spilling burning liquid or burning food on themselves. And that's just not how we want to spend our Thanksgiving in the burn center. Steam splash from liquids like gravy or sauce from vegetables can cause serious burns. Make sure the floor is clear, which again can be hard, but whether it's pets or things or kids or toys or loose mats in the carpets in the kitchen, just keep all that stuff out of the way. Knives out of the reach of children, electric cords. So a lot of times we have a lot of things plugged in, like the knife to carve the turkey or blenders or things like that. So coffee makers, just make sure all that stuff is out of the way so it doesn't accidentally get knocked. Matches and utility lighters, a lot of candles around holiday season. So make sure that we're using candles safely. It's not near any curtains or anything like that. Make sure we're blowing candles out when we're not in the room. We should always be in the room when there's a candle lit. Never leave children alone. And again, make sure our smoke alarms are working. If you do have a cooking fire, there's a couple things we want to go over. First, just get out and close the door behind you. That is huge. The air movement, when you leave the door open, it kind of feeds the fire and can help it grow rapidly. And that can be a huge problem for firefighters. So the number one thing is get out, call 911, close that door behind you. If it's a small fire and you feel comfortable, keep a lid nearby like a grease fire. Don't pour water on a grease fire. Don't try to carry a grease fire pot outside or dump it down the sink. You can cause more problems. So use that lid, just like in this graphic, to smother the grease fire. We don't want to put a towel or anything on top of it. A lid that fits that pan, put it over, and then just leave it completely covered until it's cooled. And that dish is probably going to be done. You have to make something else. If it's an oven fire, turn off the heat, keep the door closed. Don't open the door to see if the fire is still there. Just keep it closed. We'd rather have an oven fire contained to the oven. If you open it, there's a good chance that you can become injured or it can spread to the cabinets around you. If you do feel comfortable and you have a fire extinguisher nearby, you can use that fire extinguisher. But again, we don't want people to delay getting out and calling the fire department and get injured because they tried to put the fire out themselves. If you are going to use a fire extinguisher, there's plenty of things on site or from our department learning how to use a fire extinguisher. It's the acronym PASS, P-A-S-S, and that's pull the pin, aim the fire extinguisher at the base of the fire, not the flames, but the bottom of the fire, squeeze the handle, and then sweep back and forth until the fire goes out. What a lot of people don't realize is fire extinguishers can expire, and it's not so much that they expire, but they've got a powder, and that powder can become caked in the bottom. And so it's kind of like an aerosol can. If you don't shake it once a month, somewhat regularly, it gets caked so much that even when you have a fire, if it's been several years and you shake it, it's not going to come loose. So when you squeeze the handle, all that's going to come out is a little bit of powder and air. So if you do have a fire extinguisher, you're supposed to shake it on a regular basis, about once a month. But don't rely on that fire extinguisher necessarily to put the fire out. You need to have an exit plan. And again, make sure you've called 911. We don't mind coming out to check to make sure that the fire hasn't extended rather than you think everything's okay and it's not, and it ends up being a bigger problem. Especially having those smoke alarms, though, and exit drills in the home, especially in this time of season when you may have people staying at your house or you may be staying at somebody else's house that you're not familiar with. Just making sure everybody knows, if I was sleeping in this bedroom or this basement or wherever, how do I get out the quickest way possible? Is it going to be the normal entrance, like a front door or a garage, or is there a back door or a window to go out? So a lot of times we don't think about that, even on vacations. But this type of season, like I said, when we're staying places we're not used to, it only takes a few minutes just to consider those things. Kind of like when Susan was talking about things we don't normally think about. It's helpful to take a few minutes to think about those. And then turkey fryers. Turkey fryers are popular this time of year. There are several safety tips. Make sure it's on a level ground. Make sure it's at least 10 feet from your home because they do get hot. And in case there is any splashing liquid, don't overfill. There's going to be a fill line. Make sure you're using the appropriate oil. And the turkey needs to be completely thawed. If you put a frozen turkey in oil, it will cause the oil to splatter, which again can cause injury to the person, or it can cause that splattering liquid to light something else on fire. So make sure you're using your turkey fryer appropriately. The sides of the pot are going to be hot, so make sure you're using something, oven mitts or something appropriate in order to touch that side of the pot. And then there's some other stuff that's not necessarily fire safety, but we also are a combination fire department, meaning that we run emergency medical service calls. So make sure you store food appropriately, food that needs to stay cold. Don't let it just sit out for hours. Make sure the turkey thaws safely, that it's not sitting at room temperature. And there's plenty of websites that you can reference to how to thaw your turkey safely. I know some of the manufacturers have 800 numbers you can call during holiday seasons. Make sure that we're not preventing the spread of germs. So washing our hands after we touch raw food, cleaning kitchen surfaces, making sure the stuffing cooks thoroughly, especially if you're using the turkey and cooking the stuffing inside. And then take care of leftovers. And again, that kind of goes back to just not letting food sit around. When you get full and sleepy after that turkey, just go ahead and take a few minutes to put those leftovers away. Because again, the emergency room is not a fun place to spend the holidays. And I'm available for any questions. And thank you for the opportunity to share some of our fire safety tips.